Hi guys, Will Hayward here. You are about to listen to For Wales, See Wales, and this is a very special episode because we did it from inside the Welsh Parliament on the last day of this Senedd term. Now, what we did was we sat down, we got a table, we messaged every single MS and said, come on down and talk to us about what you want to talk about. And they did it in numbers which we didn't expect. So what we've decided to do is break this episode up into two parts. So this is the first part, you'll be getting the second part later. We hope you enjoy it. Give us your thoughts in the comments, and I hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome to For Wales, See Wales with me, Will Hayward.
Me, Robin Morgan.
Me, Mellowin.
The eagle-eyed amongst you will realise that we are not in the Heyman Studios in Newport. Where are we, Melanie?
We are in the Senedd, the hub of politics in this country. I was being sincere.
You were being sincere.
I don't know why you're laughing.
So we are recording this on Wednesday, the 25th of March. So you are going to be getting this about 7 days later, not least because poor producer Daryl has a life and a wife, and he can't spend every minute of every day editing what will be the next 4 hours of us parked up in the Welsh Parliament talking to MSs, members of the Senedd.
Yeah, it's going to be sort of one of our drop-in episodes. That was that we did one of these a few months ago.
Yeah, it was really great, wasn't it?
Really fun. It was really interesting hearing people speak about issues that might not get kind of like front and centre news coverage, things that they're kind of working on behind the scenes, things that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun one, and also a good day to come, I think, because it's the last day of this Senedd.
Last week, I emailed all Senedd members and said, we are going to be doing this. Come down, chat to us, talk about what you want to talk about. But there is one thing that is going to be coming up a lot today, and that is, you know.
Well, I was going to say, because it's what we have in common with the last episode. I feel like there's a common denominator here. Last time we were in the Senedd, a poll dropped, bombshell, happened again.
Exactly. So it was quite funny last time because that was the first time that Plaid had been significantly ahead of Labour. So new poll came out yesterday. It's by YouGov. It's for ITV and Cardiff University. And the results, let's talk through them quickly because we're going to be throwing these at MSs. So it puts Plaid Cymru on 33% of the vote, Reform on 27%, then Labour on 13, which is up 3 from last time. The Green Party on 12, the Welsh Conservatives on 7, and the Liberal Democrats on 5%. So Plaid have gone down 4 based on the last YouGov poll. Reform have gone up 4. But I hear you cry, what does that mean for seats inside the Welsh Parliament? That'll put Plaid Cymru on 43 of 96.
And how much do they need for a majority?
49.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Tantalisingly close for them.
We need 6 Jane Doddses.
The greyhounds running around.
Well, they'd be lucky to get 1 Jane Dodds because under this modelling from Cardiff University, the Lib Dems would be wiped out.
Oh, sorry, I know, everybody gets things wrong, but do you remember the Royal Welsh episode when she said they were going to do double digits?
Yeah, going to get 10. I mean, they might still get
Not going to get single digits.
We're just not getting any digits. There'll be as many digits as there are greyhound tracks in this country. So, Plaid Cymru on 43, Reform on 30, Welsh Labour on 12, the Green Party on 10, and the Welsh Conservatives on 1.
1.
That's massive, isn't it?
Do you want to know who under this model? Obviously, with the 6th seat in different areas, it's very hard to predict. We're not saying this is definitely going to happen. But under this modelling...
Who would be the 1? Do we know?
Big Darren Miller.
Daz!
Big Daz.
With his croissants ready.
So the 100,
Really?
100% of the Welsh Conservatives would be at a prayer breakfast with Donald Trump.
Yeah. 1.
Wow.
I mean, does this make sense of why so many Conservatives have jumped ship? Have they seen this coming and realised that they were facing to lose their seats, so therefore they jumped to try and save their own skin?
Possibly. I mean, also, they're not maybe the ones who were projected to... I don't know, would James Evans
been
in a good position to keep his?
He wouldn't have. I mean, he'd been in a good position for a Conservative ahead of this election.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if there was only 1 Conservative. I would guess maybe 2 or 3, because I think they'll just go into targeted campaign.
Yeah, well, there's some big names still within the party, right? People who we thought might sort of eventually sort of lead the party as well. Like
who could get local vote that isn't necessarily swayed by like, the national mood, but does a lot locally. I'm thinking like Sam Kurtz, somebody like that could go could go off the local field. He seems popular there. I don't know.
So several Welsh Conservatives messaged me when I emailed them last week saying, we'll try and come down. Now that was before this poll.
Sure.
So I wonder if this poll will make them go, sod this, we're not coming on.
Yeah.
Or they'll go, shit, we need to come on and
do some stuff. I wonder how Darren feels.
Remind us where Darren's seat is.
Clwyd.
Oh, sure. Okay. Interesting.
Reform being on 30.
So Reform on 30.
That's quite high.
Now,
is that the highest they've been for a little while?
It's up from the previous YouGov poll. It would put them. So they're on 30. Obviously, with the Tories, they'd be on 31.
Yeah, that's easy maths, isn't it? Thanks, Darren. That's easy maths for us to remember. Even I can.
That's all we
get that.
needed. Yeah, thank you.
So it leaves them 18 short of a majority, which is a long way short.
Yeah, that is actually substantial, isn't it?
But 30 seats for Reform is a huge amount of resource. That it would be completely game-changing, both in terms of how much power they would have to influence the conversation in Wales in terms of the amount of staff they have. But it would also change the tone of the debate massively inside the Welsh Senedd.
Yeah, and like they don't want to be the majority, right?
Well, they say they do.
Yeah, well, they're always truthful, to be fair. But I feel like, this is great news for them.
Yeah.
They're substantial.
They want to be a weighty opposition that can start to, as you say, kind of dictate the conversation and stuff. I mean, how many Labour MSs are there currently in this system?
So they started with 30 seats. Obviously, we know about what happened to Heaven David, who actually was on this pod. When we last did it from Senedd. I think he was one of the most moving speakers we had. He was talking about his daughter, who is autistic, and I know he's really widely missed. So they're down to 29 now. This would take them down to 13 after the election, which would... When you've expanded up to 96 from 60, that's quite a significant drop.
Yeah, definitely. It's just interesting to think about sort of like the amount of MSs, Reform with 30 is a huge amount. And I think they'd be very, very, very happy with that, especially as, there's some people have suggested this election might not be more for governing Wales and more for a stepping stone into showing that they can govern in Westminster, right?
So by seats, they've got 2 in almost every seat. There's a couple there that only got 1, and that's because their support is pretty evenly spread across Wales, whereas Plaid, in some areas, are getting 4.
Yeah, and then none somewhere else, maybe, or not none, but do you know what I mean? But significantly less.
The gap between their lowest amount of seats and highest amount of seats is bigger than before.
I get you, yeah.
I saw in your newsletter, I like to cite my sources.
Sure.
In no constituency does Reform lead Plaid in the number of seats there.
That's true.
Say that again for me. Sorry.
I probably because I said it in a very, very bad way. So with the 6 seats in each constituency, Reform aren't in the lead of any of those. So it's always like Plaid 3, Reform 2, or Plaid 4, Reform 1.
There's a few where they match them, but Reform are never above Plaid.
I see.
Which I think is interesting in terms of the fact of like how do you break down Wales as a political voting unit, right? And it feels like we are more centre left. Like across, when you look at the seat breakdown, when
average, kind of.
When you combine Plaid, Greens, Labour, that's a supermajority, isn't it? Compared to the 31.
And I suppose it's kind of reflective of what we saw in the general election in terms of like Reform coming second in so many seats.
Yeah,
and that first past the post system being unfair on them, whereas in this one, it's actually going to be more representative of the fact that if they do that again, they pull that again off in this election, we're going to see more of them.
Yeah, the vote share's there, which that's what you want in a democracy, right? You want people to be heard and represented.
Yeah.
So. Stay tuned. We have it might be that after this, no one shows up.
Yeah. In which case, it's just us again. Yeah.
We'll get like an AI account, I think. And we'll
just get them there.
Put Neil Kinnock there or something. That'd be fun.
We shall see who drops in. Fingers crossed.
Cool. Let's let's just sit here and wait.
We could time lapse this.
So we are now joined by Mabon ap Gwyn. You are the spokesperson for health and social care for Plaid Cymru?
Yes.
Now, if the polls that we saw yesterday are correct, in all likelihood, you could be the person who has the really easy task of running the Welsh NHS after the election. Now, all the caveats, we're still fighting for every vote, but there's a good chance, isn't there?
There is a chance, I suppose, yeah, but also it's in Rhyn's gift to decide who's going to be in Cabinet and the Minister, so I don't know where we stand on that. I've done the work so far. I think we've got the plans, confident that we can get things right. In fact, I know that we need to get the basics right in Wales, and if we get the basics right, then we will see an improvement in outcomes in Wales. So, given the chance, I'm confident we can do something and make a fist of it.
So I was just going to ask, we had Mark Drakeford on. It would have been about a year ago now. There was a lot of cheese. And
I remember hearing the programme.
And he said that Wales has too many hospitals, and what he meant was we put too much money into secondary care and not enough into primary care. You've indicated that maybe that needs to shift. Can you give an idea of amounts you think that could happen over the course of the next Parliament?
Well, possibly, if we're talking about amounts, because this is what journalists and people want to understand is the numbers, then we could be looking at a general shift of around 0.5 percentage point a year going from secondary care to primary. But it's far more than that. It's actually services. It's actually ensuring that services are delivered in the community and that primary care is properly funded. So that means maybe, as we discussed before, that some mental health services are shifted from a secondary base to primary care. That there are more nurses being employed in the community rather than employed in hospitals. It means shifting resources rather than just shifting money, so that the focus is then on that primary care part, where people get the contact with your clinicians, with doctors, where people go more often than not. So that's what we mean when we shift resources.
There was a announcement today on a UK level about satisfaction within the NHS going up. Yeah. We're very, very happy about that. Do you feel like that's something that a Plaid government would be able to do in a first 2 years and things, like really try and make sure those resources? Because on an anecdotal level, I personally don't feel like the NHS is kind of like improving from based on family members. So I was interested to see that public satisfaction has gone up. I guess it's making sure that people can feel it, right?
That reminds me of Labour's slogan for this election, which I really don't get.
Fairness you can feel.
Fairness you can feel.
So nebulous, and so
you not feel the fairness.
Yeah, well, is it in the room with us now? So. I think,
on the table, it's moving. It's moving.
So much fairness everywhere.
It was inside us the whole time.
It was.
So, but I think with improving outcomes is what we're concentrating on with health. So I'm not necessarily interested in hard targets where we're saying that this is going to improve because we've hit a certain target, because essentially if you hit a certain target with limited and constrained budgets, it just means shifting things around. So while something might be improved there, it's getting worse in another place. So while we have to respect the targets that we have and the consistency of targets across the UK, we need to introduce others. And that means identifying how people feel from their treatment in the NHS. Do they feel that they've had a good treatment? Have they been listened to? Have they received the treatment on time and during the period that they expected?
In terms of roles within the next potential Plaid government, have those conversations happened? Have you chatted with Rhyn about, I want this job, give me a job?
I've said that I'm confident that I've got the plans and I would love to do this. I know everybody says that it's going to be difficult. I've been doing this position now for 2.5 years. I've spoken to clinicians, managers, not just in Wales, but across the UK and across the world. I've identified the problems and researched in Estonia, in Finland, in other places, and said, these things can work. We can identify some of the solutions, bring them to Wales, put them in practice here. So I'm confident that we can do it.
There's a bit of a last day at school vibe here. You had the news of the poll yesterday as well. What's the mood like within Plaid at the moment? Because it's not just blanket great news. Do you know what I mean? This is challenging, right?
Yeah, it is challenging. We've never been in this position before. Mm-hmm. And we've always known that Plaid Cymru is liked across the political spectrum. People like Plaid, but historically didn't necessarily vote for us. And now people are looking for change, and they're thinking, actually, the party that we might have voted previously, there's a chance we'll vote for them this time because give them a chance and they've got some plans. So yeah, it's exciting to hear that. And literally, genuinely, on the doorstep, I know every politician says this, but genuinely, in communities across Gwynedd, Mabon, where I'm standing, people are saying, yeah, we've not voted for you before, we've thought of voting for you, we will this time. I was thinking, wow,
Yeah.
There's change in the air.
Do you think it's that want for change that is swinging people over, or is there something else?
People are demanding change. People want that change. And they want a positive change. Again, we are getting people on the doorstep saying, we don't want reform. We're afraid of reform. But that doesn't necessarily drive people towards Plaid. So what's driving them towards Plaid is, yes, that fear of reform, the need for change, but that they have confidence in us as well. So they could go for any other party, but they come into Plaid because they think that we can solve the problems that are facing people in Wales. So that's really nice.
So I think a real key part of holding politicians to account isn't just saying, what are you going to do about this? What's this? Like, I think a real key thing is just getting them to commit to stuff. So imagine Reen Appior says to you, I want you to be in my cabinet and I want you to run the health service in the NHS for the next 4 years after May. In 4 years' time, how would people in Wales' health service be different?
I'm not interested, as I said, in just that secondary care. So we will have shifted resources to primary care. You'll see more activity going on in your community and in the primary settings. We will improve cancer outcomes because they're so dire at the moment that they can only go one way, and we've got a cancer plan that would improve those outcomes. We'd make sure that also people get to see GPs on time. That's one of the biggest bugbears that people have. If you talk to anybody, we know that waiting list is an issue. We know that EDs are a massive issue. But on a day-to-day basis, people want to see the doctor. So we'd put in place a system where people can see that doctors, where doctors' surgeries are open longer.
Okay, so we are recording this. It's now 10:45, which means there's a pretty good chance there's some people in Wales who are still on hold for their GP from when they called earlier this morning. Yeah. Will those long waits to see a GP, could you guarantee that people who need to see a GP will see them that day? Is that a thing you could promise in 4 years?
By the end of the 4 years, yes, because we will have put in place, starting off initially with 100 GPs that will go to the most deprived communities in those areas that need them most, where the capacity is at its most constrained.
And you'll change the funding model, because we know the funding model actually siphons money away from the most deprived areas.
Yeah, we will do that. We will review the Cahill formula, but there's no point in me promising that's going to happen overnight. That's going to take a couple of years to work through the system, because that has to be in consultation with GPs, with the communities being affected.
But it's also got to happen quick, because it's entrenching poverty, isn't it?
It has to happen, and it will happen. But in the meantime, we'll have before we can achieve that, let's be realistic. A review of the Cahill formula will take time. And making sure that everybody is happy with the conclusion of that. But in the meantime, we'll have put 100 GPs in place in those most needed areas. So that would allow the flow of patients that much better. We'll also put in place a package, capital funding, so that GP practices can access funding to help with the overheads. Young GPs don't want to become partners because they don't want those overheads, because they're going to be committed to leasehold, to rent, to the cost of living crisis that we're all experiencing at the moment. And they don't want to go into that because young GPs want that flexibility. So if we can take some of that headache away and allow GPs to become partners, that would mean that we've got more GPs going to those rural communities, ensuring that people are seen in those communities where they're further away from the district general hospitals. So, those are the plans that we've identified that need to be done. We will put them in place over the next year. And after a 4-year Plaid Cymru government, people will have seen their GPs sooner.
I'm very conscious of your time, because you didn't even plan to come here. We just grabbed you as you walked past.
Will very much jumped out at you, and we said, please don't do that.
You know what I love about this job? I've just had a meeting with Hospices UK now.
Yeah.
Fantastic, really interesting. Then going to a meeting with Open University, and then we're going into another meeting with a digital company. So many different things going on.
What a day for you.
Yeah. It is last day of school vibes, though, isn't it? Like, bring a board game, play some Hungry post later on.
Screwball scramble.
Yeah.
Sign your shirt, would that be all right?
Yeah, I've got a white shirt on. It's like school, isn't it?
Perfect.
Tell our listeners something about you that they won't know.
I used to live in a country called Guyana. When I was 11, we were meant to live there as a family for 4 years.
Researching the health service?
You could say that, because...
Oh, God, please say that.
Come on.
I was 11, but no, I nearly died. As a family, yeah.
Thanks, Will.
That's the response I was looking for.
Go on, Will. Any funny comments you want to make?
About me nearly dying?
Yeah.
When I was 11.
11-year-old boy dying, Will.
Do you mind? I mean, share what don't if you don't want to. But what happened?
We caught, as a family, typhoid and the parasite.
Wow.
So typhoid never leaves you, so it's probably still in the system somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
And here you are thriving.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm still not eating cucumber. If anybody asks, if I can't eat something, it's cucumber.
Really?
So don't bring a plate of cucumber if I come to.
If you come on, I mean, we still will.
I promise not to give you cucumber or make light of the fact your whole family got typhoid. Thank you very much. I am sorry.
Well, for Mel's laughter.
Guys, you know what is very exciting? Do you know what makes me happier than anything? New guests. Guests coming on for their first time.
Never been on before.
No.
Okay, introduce yourself.
My debut.
Who are you and where do you come from?
My name's Gareth Davies. I'm the member of the Senedd for Vale of Clwyd, representing the Welsh Conservatives.
How long have you been a Senedd member for?
2021 I was elected, yeah. So I was the only Conservative gain from Labour. In 2021,
You're
so
the trend bucket.
Yeah, I was
Did you feel
the
like a
trend
bit of a big
bucket.
dog? Did you feel a bit like
no?
me?
I'm not that side. I'm not that kind of person, really.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm very much from the local area. My family date back there. Obviously, it's nice to win.
Yeah.
But with that, I'll never rub it in anyone's face or be arrogant or anything like that. It's not my nature.
Bring it up. But, we didn't bring it up. You did, but
So when you say from the local area, can you say specifically where are you from, and what would you say for your constituents is the big issue that you hear on the doorstep a lot?
Yeah, so I was born in St Asaph, so the maternity unit used to be at HM Stanley. It's not there anymore. It's all houses now. The biggest issue I would say is the waiting times at Glan Clwyd Hospital A&E department. We're seeing lots of corridor care. I dealt with a case, unfortunately, that was sort of shared in publicly in the press that sadly an elderly lady died in a corridor which wasn't very dignified. So obviously there's a lot of work to be done there with Betsy Cadwallader holding the Welsh Government to account, because obviously it's been in special measures for so many years, which means it's under direct Welsh Government control. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff going on. It resonates a lot with people because that is ultimately the local hospital, and we've seen 13 years of promises of North Denbighshire Community Hospital in Rill that was promised, promised 30 beds, a minor injuries unit, which was supposed to take pressure off A&E services.
The NHS consistently sort of tops the lists of what voters are what voters are interested in, right? How would the Welsh Conservatives sort of fix those issues? What is the plan?
So declaring a health emergency is the obviously first priority. Want to commission a public inquiry into Betsy Cadwallader University Health Board as well. Launch a public inquiry into that. Get people on oath to sort of give evidence and have sort of objective conclusions to that and recommendations that can change the culture that's been the case for so many years now.
If the poll yesterday is anything to go by, it's going to be an even bigger challenge for the Welsh Conservatives to kind of affect those types of changes that you're looking to see. What's the mood like in the party at the moment?
I don't try to not get hooked too much on polls, because I'm very much sort of local, and then I sort of broaden that out across Wales. It's not exactly what I've sort of been experiencing on the doorsteps, talking with constituents.
Feel quite positive then out there.
Yeah, positive in many ways, and I think as well because we've got a new system, it's got very little to model itself on in terms of comparative data and that sort of thing. So we saw one poll yesterday that had Welsh Conservatives on one seat, but then another one was saying 4 and 6, 7, 8. So it seems a little bit all over the place. So I think in that regard you can't get too hooked on those things because it seems very subjective in that sense. So I just keep the ball rolling, and we'll see where we end up in May.
Has it felt like a strange sort of few months where I suppose your party's sort of seemingly been fractured for a while, and obviously with lots of defections going over to Reform? How has that felt within the group?
You can't control what people's decisions, individuals' decisions make. There's been defections from Labour to Conservatives, and vice versa for centuries. It happens, we've just got to deal with that. And but I think what you've got now in terms of the people who've stuck by the Welsh Conservatives are true people who were signed up to the principles of conservatism, and that's something that I've tried to do more so recently is to do videos and media or whatever about what Conservatives stand for.
So you're not tempted to go?
No, I never have been. And I know there's been. I know there was rumours previously, but no, it does. I'm a Conservative, and I always have been, and probably always will be. But because ultimately, I benefited from the policies of the Conservatives in the 1990s, under Major, which was and Thatcher previously to that. So it's not within my It's not within my sort of gift to go to other parties because they don't represent me. I'm a Conservative, and that's it.
I just want to ask about when people defect. Like, political parties are quite like, they're emotional places, aren't they? Like, that's your kind of home. It's almost like a mini family, isn't it? And
yeah.
Are you really pissed off when people go?
Is it a betrayal?
Yeah. Do you
feel
when someone goes? You like you see them in the canteen.
Yeah.
Are you like, oh,
how can you
what
look
a prick?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, they're adults. They make their own decisions. Whatever their personal reasons for doing that are, probably not shared or not known. We live in a free society at the end of the day. People make their own decisions, and, you hope that, we can subscribe as many people to the Conservatives as possible. But if they make that decision, I'm not, I don't dwell on those things. I look to the future. I don't dwell on the past, and just, hope that we can, sell a positive vision for the people of Wales that, that they can subscribe to.
That was annoyingly well navigated.
Have some of them left the WhatsApp groups, or were they kicked out of the WhatsApp groups?
Oh gosh, wow. I'm not an admin of any WhatsApp groups.
Show me the WhatsApps. Show me the.
I don't know. It's quite powerful actually. Yeah.
If that's how you found out they were going, James Evans has left the WhatsApp
+47. Who's that? Who's that?
Egg-shaped.
When Laura defected, that was nobody knew.
Sure. She loves WhatsApp.
I was at the Royal Welsh, wasn't
I? Yeah, I was sat in a Zoom meeting in the constituency office, and
so that's how you found out.
I was playing live. It was live at the time, and I saw,
I'm obsessed. That's proper Real Housewives shit. Like, it was I
know her. That DiCaprio meme.
Turn the volume up, and she's still at the Royal Welsh of Farage. That's how you found out your wife's left you. Imagine.
Yeah, so it was.
Wow, that's hilarious. Oh gosh.
Well, Gareth, you are our first Conservative of the day. We're really grateful for you giving us the time.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck pounding the pavements.
Thank you very much.
Steps in.
And
yes.
Good luck with you guys covering it all and trying to snapshot some coverage of it. Right,
diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you. Cheers.
you.
Thank you. Good to meet you.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
See you later. Hwyl fawr.
So we have now been joined by yet another gleeful, giddy Plaid Cymru Senedd member. We are joined by Delyth Jewell, who, correct me if I'm wrong, Senedd member for South Wales East Region.
That's right.
Born and bred in Caerphilly.
Yes.
And your brief, it's very hard to keep up with all the Shadow Cabinet briefs. What is your role in the Plaid Cymru Shadow Cabinet?
So I am the spokesperson on climate change.
Spokesperson on climate change. Small topic. Not much going on.
Right, yeah. I know. If we get that wrong, then we'll be all right? No, wait, hang on. Damn.
The sea is just over there, so you know.
I know. Gets closer every day.
You feel very energetic, chirpy, happy. Is there a particular reason for that? Is there any breaking news that is swinging your snare?
I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's been an opinion poll.
Right,
and Plaid's doing okay. We're doing okay. No, but in all seriousness, we actually can't take this for granted. It's a really exciting time, and you feel like you want to be not containing the excitement, but keeping it in check, because no votes have been cast yet. And we want to make sure that the momentum stays and that people know that if they want the change that we are promising, that they're actually going to have to go out and vote for it.
Yeah, keeping that momentum is huge though, right? Because it's looked like Plaid have been at the front for months now, right? But again, May, it's 6 weeks away, right? And this is crunch time, actually getting people out. So how as a party are you keeping that momentum up?
Well, we really, in my area, the momentum's been going since the by-election in Caerphilly. We haven't really stopped campaigning since then. And that has shown how much it was a two-horse race between us and Reform then. It's getting that message out to people. And that is mainly through knocking on doors, because that's how it's one of the many ways in which we're different from the other parties. I mean, we don't have London bosses and we don't have these big backers in terms of millionaires. We actually are in the grassroots. We go out there and we talk to people on the doorstep, and having those conversations, making sure that we get the message out to people.
The result in Caerphilly, did you feel like it was helpful or a bit of a challenge? Because on the one hand, everyone wants to back a winner, right? And Plaid look like they can win in tough seats. But also, is there a complacency of Reform aren't that much of a threat? Plaid are going to do well. I don't really need to bother going out to vote.
Oh, well, this is what we've got to guard against, right? Because Reform is still biting at our heels. We cannot assume that they're going to go away. They have so much money behind them. They've got so much, not just resource, but influence in terms of the UK media. So we need to make sure that we're getting out there and that we're not resting on our laurels. And goodness me, we're not going to be. Caerphilly, I think, was really important because it showed that we can do it. It showed that we have to do it, because the alternative, I mean, the amount of jeopardy that's in this election is extreme, because if Plaid were in the lead and there were another party I would consider progressive, or that most people would consider progressive, in second place, then of course we'd still want to win, but it wouldn't feel so much as an all or nothing moment for not just the Senedd, but for Wales. That's why the jeopardy is so extreme, because the two really starkly different futures ahead of us. It is so important that people get out and vote.
The latest poll obviously still has Plaid in the lead, but dropping some points, down 4. Rise in the Greens. Do you think that that's where those percentage points have gone? Do you feel like you want to keep that momentum going? Is there a bit of squeaky bum time going on?
Well, again, we can't be complacent with any of this. I think a lot of it could be within the margin of error. It's wonderful to see the Greens doing so well, but I don't think that their rise is at our expense. They seem to be coming from other parties rather than coming away from us, because I think, as much as, again, I think it's fantastic that they're doing well, and I really hope they get a representation in the next Senedd, but people are going to have to be looking at which parties are actually going to be able to lead the next Welsh government, right? And Plaid Cymru is the progressive party that can do that, and the progressive party that can beat Reform. But I don't want us just to be talking about, we want to do this to stop them. It's about what we actually stand for as well, and our positive message and the ambition that we've got that we have to achieve for Wales.
That's, I think, what a lot of people, from across all the parties, change seems to be the word on the street, right? And I think on a UK level, that's what Starmer ran with Labour. And then the year and a half after that, it feels like that wasn't delivered. Have conversations been happening about, if we do get in on basically a mandate for change, how are we going to do that? How are we going to make sure that people feel that?
Oh, absolutely, which is why we've been making sure that with the manifesto that's coming out very soon, very exciting, that's going to be fully costed. We have ideas I'm so excited about sharing with the people of Wales. I suppose that's one of the vastly, starkly ways in which we are different from Labour under Keir Starmer, certainly. He promised change, but it was an empty slogan, right? I'm trying not to bang the table now, so I'm now going outwards rather than down. It was an empty slogan. And for us, actually, it isn't about just the word change. It's about embodying that. It's about the most generous childcare offer in the UK. It's about making sure that we are actually going to be transforming people's lives, the skills audit that we're going to be doing. I'm from an area in the valleys where there are so many people young people who feel that in order to succeed, they might have to go away from the area where they live. And that breaks my heart. And we've got to change that. We've got to make it so that that the valleys are going to be leading the world again, like we have in the past.
So you've got the climate change brief.
I have.
And this is kind of because of how the Welsh Labour government had initially set up the roles. There's not responsibility for agriculture and there's not responsibility for energy. And those two elements are really key in tackling climate change. In kind of the journalism I've done, I think one of the clearest, criticisms of Plaid is I don't know if there is a credible offering on getting to net zero that we need to do in what's offered at the moment. How would you respond to that? And do you think there's more to do? I'd be interested in your thoughts.
There's so much time that's been lost and, well, I wouldn't say squandered, but critical time that we couldn't afford to lose that's been lost, which is why 2035, I don't think there's any party that's credible that's going to be able to say that we could reach net zero by that point. 2040, which is our target, I think is going to be amongst the most ambitious of any party. It's where I think the Green Party were at the last Westminster election in terms of their manifesto. So being as ambitious as possible. And of course, that's going to mean difficult choices. It's going to mean everybody changing how we live our lives. But it's crucial for us that that happens in ways where we are taking people with us, where people feel that net zero, which I really regret has become so toxic as a phrase.
So everything's become toxic.
Right? But I mean, in terms of what it actually means, in terms of making sure that we survive, everybody is on board with that because we have to be. It's making sure that the changes that happen are empowering people, not taking that power away. Again, that has happened too often in our past.
So kind of two questions on that then. Are Plaid been honest with rural communities about how much change is going to need to happen from their perspective in order to reach net zero? And when you talk about big changes, what will be the biggest change after 4 years of Plaid, which will mean we'll be close to net zero?
Okay, good questions. Okay, so in terms
He is good. He is decent.
I know,
He's
right?
annoying. He's very good at his job.
Guys, he should really try being a journalist.
I
He's
know.
really good. Yeah.
Try for some awards.
So my two questions.
Yeah, okay, so in terms of how we are communicating with the agricultural community, so with farmers, yes, we are being honest with people because it's not just a question of farmers, because obviously that does contribute towards a lot of the issues that we have. And there are lots of farmers who are doing really excellent work. In terms of the SFS, we need to make sure that farmers are, again, feeling like they are part of this project. We can't scare farmers off so that they don't want to be part of it at all. And I think that's been one of the areas where there have been tensions. I know that my colleague Claire is really keen to make sure that whether it's agriculture, whether it's so many other areas to do with what we need to change, with industry, that this is something where people feel part of the change, that they feel their voices have been listened to. And, there have been improvements on that recently. There's more that we need to do.
When you say we need to make the change to get to net zero across Wales, it doesn't have to just be on agriculture. What is the biggest change that after 4 years where we go, right, Plaid have done this, which means we're now more likely to hit net zero 2040?
Well, I think it's going to be in the green jobs revolution that that is going to come about as part of the skills audit that is going to be starting that, so that and there's going to be more detail in the manifesto, so that we actually are empowering people in our communities that, again, I was talking about the young people, right, who feel that if they want to go into really exciting jobs that maybe they'll have to move away. Well, actually, they should be in our communities now. There's so many opportunities in terms of, oh my gosh, heating water in underground, where actually we can use what has happened to us in our past to our benefit, in terms of coal tip remediation, in terms of all of these ways where we have been exploited. Actually, let's make sure that we are the ones who benefit from that in the future. Of course, there are big changes. They don't necessarily have to be to the detriment of the people of Wales. We need to find ways in which this is actually something where we can lead the Wales again.
Okay. There is a very patient John Griffiths waiting for us.
John, shout out to John.
Final question.
It's John's last day. He will be missed.
Final question before you go. If you could have one alcoholic drink for the rest of your life, you're only allowed to drink one, what would you go for?
Gin and tonic.
Gin and tonic?
If I were trendy, Hendrix with the cucumber.
Sure.
Yeah, no. We all know.
You can take the girl out of Caerphilly.
Right? Yeah.
Don't mention cucumber to Mabon, just a hint.
It's true.
Yeah. Someone got typhoid.
Typhoid thing. Yeah. No. It all comes back to typhoid.
It all comes back to cucumber.
Actually.
Apparently so. Yeah.
How have I never heard that story before?
See, we're breaking stuff. It's not just Will Hayward. This pod is doing it.
Yeah.
You know.
I am going to have a conversation now about cucumber. I didn't think that this is how this conversation was going to end.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So we are now joined by Welsh Conservative Regional Member for South Wales West, Tom Giffard. I think I first met you when you were speaking at Yes Cymru talk, and you were definitely one of the only people in the room, except me, who weren't massively in favour of Welsh independence. And I thought that was a pretty brave thing to do, because you didn't have to step into that arena, but you chose to.
No, can I tell you who twisted my arm? It was Heaven, David. And we were about to do an event in the next hour on the steps of Senedd, remembering Heaven and Heaven's life here in the Senedd. And as we're at the last day of this term, I just thought it would be worth mentioning Heaven, because he was the one that twisted my arm, and he said, "Oh, look, I've been asked to do this Yes Cymru thing. They need two people that they can shout at and heckle. So do you fancy coming with me?" And he's the one twisted my arm, and we did that together. I quite enjoyed it.
So what happened then? What did you go and do and say?
So
I disagree with all of you.
Basically, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah, and we were like supremely popular, as you can imagine.
Yeah, of course.
in the room. I had a kind of like very factual reasoned argument in my head that I wanted to make, but Heaven does the vibes, right? Heaven was great at that.
Sure.
Yeah? And I left quite inspired.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, fair play.
It was actually one of, I've chaired a lot of debates, and it was, although the audience started deeply hostile to both of you, I felt like by the end they were only slightly hostile.
Yes. That's a win.
That's a win, right?
That's a win.
That's
right.
It's describing any of our gigs, really. That's pretty much it.
Feels like the Glee on a Thursday. I mean, well, last time, because this is your second time on, so thank you for coming back. You must have enjoyed it the first time to come back.
Yeah.
Last time we spoke to you, you were just like literally just about to become a father. How's it going?
Yeah, honestly, it's great and terrible all at the same time.
Okay, sure. Politics?
Yeah,
or
it's
being
like
a
stand-up
father?
comedy as well.
Yeah. The best, hardest thing is how I used to describe it with a newborn.
Yeah, exactly. 10
Nice.
months now.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we've chatted to some Conservatives already, and one of the things we were really curious about, because the Senedd is a small place, at the moment there's only 60 members. What is it like when someone defects? That is, you see them everywhere, like that you know each other really intimately. What is that like from a kind of personal perspective when you have Conservatives going over to Reform, for example?
Yeah, I think...
For example.
It's
off the top of my head.
I think we're a very close-knit team, right? There's only 16 of us that got elected as Welsh Conservatives here in 2021. Spent an awful lot of time together, and you kind of build this kind of bond of trust as well. Family's a bit of a cliche, but it does feel like that sometimes. And you feel genuinely really let down, and I think there are ways to do it. Not that I would ever defect to Reform, but I think that there are ways to do it, right? And I think the way that Laura went, not telling Darren in advance, making him watch it on the television was bad. And then some of the things that James has said since leaving, it's felt very personal as well. And
what sort
of stuff hurts quite a lot more, I think. I just think some of the portrayals of the conversations that he was involved in. So, for example, I remember him saying that, he didn't understand what a health emergency was in Wales, and he was one of the people that was outwardly sort of constructing that and pushing that narrative for us. And I don't know, I really regret that, because I just feel like it's an argument built on this political convenience, and these are not the people that I thought we knew anyway when they were in the tent with us. So yeah, it just feels really let down by it more than anything.
Have you chatted to James much since?
Not an awful lot, no. So I did have a fun interaction this morning, no?
This morning?
Hot off the press.
Literally this morning.
Yeah.
So they asked me about this on Radio Wales this morning, and they asked me, why are all these Conservatives going to Reform? And I said, well, I don't know the answer, really, but I don't know that I would believe them if they told me, because James, as he's come on your podcast, I think in the past and said, was going around saying that Reform wanted to privatise the NHS. Now 6 months on, he's pretending he never said it. There's a real credibility issue with these people. So like Nigel Farage, I think James might be one of these people that can be paid to say anything. So I get off the air, I turn around, and he's sat right behind me. And it was like...
Counting his money.
You're right, okay. Well, he sat right there.
Did he say anything?
He just sort of grumbled, and I gave him a nod.
Oh, wow. That's the fear, isn't it? It's like when you send a message in the wrong WhatsApp group, and you're like, no, delete.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Oh, God.
That is, I mean, yeah, I've got nothing to say to you. That is awful.
Me neither.
Yeah.
So he'll be listening to this in the bath at some point. call back.
He's an avid listener. Not asking you to name names at all, but are there individuals who you're like, they'll go if given the chance?
No, I don't. Genuinely, I don't. I think the Welsh Conservative group that we've got now, very tight, very united. Frankly, I think if they'd have gone already, right? And I know we've got a slate of candidates across the country who, again, are in that boat, right? If they wanted to have gone, they'd gone. So I think people know in this election when they're voting Conservative, they're voting for actual true blue Tories who want to be there and want to be Welsh Conservatives. I think the opposite of that question is, if we have a situation like we had in the last but one Senedd, where you had a UKIP group, it implodes and people go off in different directions, I'd be hesitant to take some of them back, to be honest with you. And I think because of that nature of just jumping ship when it's convenient and when you want to do it, I'd be really, really hesitant personally to want to take some of those people back.
Is that something that you're speaking to people on the doorstep about? The integrity, I suppose, of a right of centre voter going for reform. Is that something you're mentioning?
Well, it's funny because conversations I had, I remember a guy I spoke to this weekend, and he said, I'm voting reform, immigration, da da da. And I said, well, okay, but do you think Reform are actually ready to run a country? This isn't like a community council or even a county council in England. This is a country. This is the NHS and education service. Oh, God, no. And then I think Reform now need to get past the point of being a protest vote and held to the same standard that other parties are. We're 6 weeks before an election. We've got a clue who's standing for them. Not one candidate has been formally announced yet. I don't know any other party that would get away with that, quite frankly. So if they're a serious party of government in the way that we are, and to be fair, all the other parties you've had on today, the media, and I don't include you guys, but the media need to hold them to that standard that they would hold any other party to.
If the poll that came out yesterday is to be believed, you've got a Herculean task in front of you. What are you going to do?
I think, look, I'm sure everybody says, right, it doesn't feel like that on the doorsteps, right? It genuinely doesn't feel like that on the doorsteps for me.
What does it feel like on the doorsteps in terms of seats?
Okay, so I would be lying to you if I said, it's great and we're going to get 100% of the vote everywhere, right? That's not going to happen. But I think that there's a general sense of like a need for change in the air. I don't necessarily know that people have settled on like what that change is and what that feels like. I think a lot of people are still undecided, kind of non-committal when you talk to them. So my argument has been, okay, well, if you think change is in the air, right? Labour have failed. Plaid Lib Dems have been in power with them over that period of time, 27 years. Reform clearly are not in a position to be able to run well. I'm not even confident they would want to win the election. So it's only us really that can provide that change and that plan to be able to deliver it.
That must be frustrating though, to be the opposition and to have this idea of people want change and you'd be like, we're here, we have been here, we've been trying to hold these people to account, but people not going through. That must feel frustrating.
I think there is a difference. I think we're picking up. There is a difference in the areas where we've got like incumbent MSs with strong local track records versus kind of Wales as a whole in the areas where we don't, right? So where we've had MSs and been able to demonstrate exactly that, I think we will do a lot better than the polls suggest. That's my prediction. I think where we haven't, I think that might be a little bit more of a struggle. So I think it's the ability to be able to articulate that in communities and have credible candidates with an ability to do it really is making a difference.
I know you're not going to criticise your party leadership, and I'm not going to ask you to. But if you've gone from 16 members of a 60-seat Senedd down to potentially one member of a 90-seat Senedd, this isn't a situation you can look at and go, well, this is working fantastic. And my question to you would be, is the issue that you've got fantastic messaging, things are going well, it's just not cutting through? Or do you guys need a change of direction? Because,
look, I think a lot of stuff comes out in the wash after an election. I don't think we need a change in direction. I think it is much easier to be Reform because you are an incumbent but by a record, right? You can be all things to all people. And when you ask people why they vote Reform, very rarely do they identify like a specific Welsh Government policy that they would identify that Reform want to change, and that's the reason that they're voting for them. It goes back to what I was saying a minute ago, right? It's vibes with Reform, and it's much easier to say we are everything to everyone when you haven't got a record to defend, right? We were in government in Westminster for 14 years. Not everything went as well as achievements, but not everything went as well as it should. And obviously we're being impacted by that still today. I don't think you can lay a lot of that at Darren's door, in fairness. Obviously, the message that we need to get out there is really difficult to get out in a media landscape that is primarily focused on what happens in Westminster, and that would be the same regardless of what direction we're heading in.
Okay. We have got MSs piling up, waiting to come on, and they are people of status and power, and they do not like to be kept waiting. So I am going to wrap this up, but I was interested, if you had to go for a beer with any politician outside of the Conservatives in the Senedd, who would you go for a beer with?
You're assuming I haven't already.
But no, I mean, if I said to you, you can go for a pint with any other Senedd member, obviously, we're actually got Helen Viken and David Rees, obviously excluding those two, who would be top of your list. They're waiting to come on now.
I have been to Dublin for a beer with Heleth.
Oh, the whole way to Dublin.
It's a long way to go.
We went to Dublin.
She's nodding excited.
So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to breadcrumb that and then leave, and then I'll let Heleth tell it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Now, the phrase OG, for want of a better word, original gangster, are thrown around too much, I think, in modern popular culture. But we have been joined by one of the original Senedd members. One of the original gangsters, fresh from Newport East, John Griffiths. Thank you so much for joining us.
Not at all.
It's your last day in the Senedd.
Yeah, it's really emotional, and I feel really lucky to have been here, in the Senedd, first of all, the Assembly, of course, since 1999. There are 4 of us left.
Yeah.
We call ourselves the originals. At one time, I referred to us as the old timers, but that upset some of the other 4.
So who are the other?
I've moved on from.
Who are the other old timers? It's yourself.
Yeah, it's Ellen Jones, who hopes to continue, Lynn Neagle, who hopes to continue, and Jane Hutt, who's stepping down along with me. So at most there'll be 2 left after the May election. But it's just been amazing to be part of devolution and seeing Wales grow and build since 1999 with its own Parliament for Wales. Just remembering that generations of people in Wales fought for a Parliament for Wales. And it's been delivered, and we have it. And, there'll always be issues about whether it's delivering as well as it should on public services and the economy and much else. But the fact is we've got our own opportunity now in Wales to make Wales thrive, to make Wales a success through our own democratic institution. And I think pulling that power down to Wales, seeing it grow and develop over 27 years, being in the front line, as it were, has just been a huge privilege. And I just feel very, very lucky. And now I feel very emotional, really, sort of thinking about stepping back from that.
What was the thought process behind standing down?
Well, having been here for 27 years and with young grandchildren, family's a huge factor for me, and spending more time with those grandchildren is just going to be wonderful.
What are you proudest of from your time here?
I think helping to build Wales, in terms of Wales having the power and the opportunity to shape its own affairs to a greater extent. I think that's just massive. It's a massive growing opportunity for the country. It is about nation building, and I think that's very, very important for any country, isn't it, to have that ability to shape its own destiny. And as I say, there'll always be arguments as to whether, we're delivering through Welsh Government as well as we should, but to have the opportunity and to empower the people of Wales and communities in Wales, organisations in Wales, through devolution, I just think is massive for the country. So to have been part of that, I think it's wonderful. Of course, the other thing for me is I'm strongly left of centre as a politician, and politics is in my blood. And we've been pulling power down to a country that is left of centre, more left of centre than is generally the case in the UK. And throughout the 27 years, we've had progressive governments with left of centre policies. So, again, I think that's hugely important and hugely beneficial for Wales. And I very much hope that post-May, we have a progressive majority again, and, whichever parties are in government, there's a progressive majority here to continue those left-of-centre policies.
I guess this is the election where that's most at risk, would you say? With the way the poll is going.
Definitely.
I mean, it must have changed the last few years, especially the sort of political system, and I suppose, for lack of a better word, the vibe of politics within Wales has shifted immeasurably.
Yeah, I mean, politics, I think, is probably more volatile now than it's been for an awful long time. And we see that on a world level as well as within the UK and Wales. And in some ways, I think the Labour Party in Wales can, not draw comfort, but perhaps reflect that the campaign is going to be hugely important. Election campaigns develop their own dynamics. So I think we'll see substantial shift in terms of the support that the parties have through the campaign. And we also know that with the electoral system that we have, for those fifth and sixth seats within the combined constituencies, a small number of votes can make the difference as to whether, a political party gets those extra representatives or not. So it's all to play for, I think, for Labour and, all the other political parties.
What do you wish you knew 26, 27 years ago, stepping in here for the first time? What do you, if you could go back and tell him something, what would you warn him or tell him?
Oh, God, that's a difficult question. I think perhaps what's most important is the community dynamics around politics. And I think the way you organise yourself as a politician can draw on community strength. And I think, some of my colleagues have been very, very good at that from the beginning. They've had a real community approach to the way that they do politics. Lots of events in the constituency, bringing constituency groups to the Senedd and involving them in cross-party groups, the committee work in general. And I just think that's such a progressive way to work as a politician, to be absolutely rooted in the community. It does take a lot of time, but you've got staff as well who can help with that. And I think, if I look at my experience over 27 years, I think to have worked in that way from the beginning, would have been the right way to do things. And I've sort of developed that understanding over the 27 years, really.
So you obviously felt the kind of weight that comes with nation building and, Wales campaigned for a long time to have control over a lot of its own affairs. Yes. And with that comes a responsibility of, God, we've got to get this right.
Yeah.
When you look back, what would you say is the thing where you most look back and think, actually, we could have done that differently. We should have done that differently. And I'm not saying this from a point of view of criticising. I'm interested as someone who's leaving politics on your reflections of what could we have done better?
Yeah. Well, personally, I think we could have been more preventative in terms of the health service. I'm hugely keen on physical activity. I love the local park run. I work with grassroots sport in Newport, and we've organised our own conferences and events in Newport to try and get the health service, the health board, more involved with physical activity and sport.
But stitch in time saves 9 kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But physical activity is only one aspect of that preventative health agenda. There's much else that goes around it. But, getting that shift in culture and practice and delivery to become more preventative is really difficult. And we know why the health service is understandably reactive. When it's got the waiting times, issues for elective surgery, A&E, pressures, ambulance responses, getting people out of hospital, discharged into the community. It's a massive undertaking for a health board, isn't it, and a health service. But if we don't get a more preventative approach, I think the health service is really going to continue as a sort of hamster on a wheel. Yeah. And with an ageing society, that's going to become more and more difficult. So there has to be a shift.
That word difficult, though, it is really, really hard to make changes. And I've spoke to so many Labour politicians, some of whom have had the health brief, who said, we have to be more preventative.
Yeah.
And obviously, the hard thing about democracies is that every 4 years, you've got to kind of show your workings and show what you've done. But Labour have had a really great position where they haven't had to do that. Are you frustrated that we haven't done things in such a different way, that we could have maybe in Wales used that continuity of government to have a different approach to health service? Are you frustrated by it?
I think so, yeah. I think, as you say, it's a huge opportunity to know that because of the support of people in Wales for left-of-centre politics and for the Labour Party and Welsh Labour for a long time, that's a great opportunity and also a big responsibility to know that you have an opportunity over the longer term to think beyond the electoral cycle and really get meaningful change. So, it is frustrating. And poverty is still such a big factor in Wales, which really hampers delivery on public services. I know it sort of sounds like excuses, but there are huge challenges. I'd say on education as well, that for me, I would like to have seen more prioritisation and investment in our schools and our education service right back in 1999. And I think if we'd done that more than we did, 27 years later, we'd have really seen the benefits. You always think back and think things could have been done better because, of course, it's never going to be perfect, is it?
But I think it is interesting when you've got someone who's long-standing. I think your reflections are really insightful. I think it's a really important thing to do is to look back at someone who's seen us go from an assembly where essentially talking about stuff which is pretty minute in the details to now, shall we change income tax?
It's been huge, and remembering at the beginning when it was about the nuts and bolts, really, of just trying to get the institution set up and working, the minutiae of it all, to go from that to where we are now with those lawmaking powers, tax-varying powers, and to know that it was such a narrow squeak with the referendum that set up devolution in Wales, but that when we then had a vote and another referendum on whether we should have full lawmaking powers and become a full parliament, the vote was much, much stronger in favour of taking that big step forward and creating a parliament for Wales.
Are you going to miss it?
Yes, very much. Politics is in the blood, and just stepping back after 27 years of being part of, a project really that I think has come an awful long way is going to be hugely difficult, and it's very emotional. But, we all know that you can still do politics, and I'll still be doing politics.
You did, and I'm sorry, I know it's your last day to finish on such a hard question, right? But you did say you're a park runner. What's your PB?
21:51.
Oh, bloody hell.
God.
Oh my god.
21:51.
When did you do that?
Riverfront park run in Newport.
But how long ago?
Oh, about 10 years now.
Can I be cheeky? How old are you now?
Almost 70.
Oh, piss off, John.
What is it now?
Well, can I invite
you? You were 60 and you beat my Nah.
What is it now?
Interview's over.
Daryl,
cut
better.
it.
What is it now?
It's just over 25 minutes now.
Oh, still. I can't get sub 30.
Listen, why don't you all come along and run the riverfront?
We won't see you. We'll just see you disappear into the distance.
We'll meet up in the cafe at the end.
Let's do a podcast special.
Let's do it. Sean Williams.
Yeah, get out.
John, I would like to say it's been a pleasure, but you have completely emasculated me with that part of the time.
You ruined it.
Well, thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr.
Deal. Thank you.
Deal.
Diolch.
Congratulations.
Thank you.